the UN, sustainable development agenda, etc., is not about saving the earth. It is about monopolizing the earth's resources under the guise of, don't worry, we're going to take care of it, guys. And then they come in and take over an area and then start, of course, selling it out to their corporate buddies.
I know you know a lot about Bill Gates. And so Bill Gates used to say this about climate change.
World emits over 51 billion tons of greenhouse gases. And as we keep doing that, the consequences for human life will be catastrophic. And time is running out.
So that was Bill Gates, the same kind of fear-mongering he did about COVID until he cashed in his Pfizer stock. And then as soon as he cashed in his Pfizer stock, he said, hey, guess what? The virus isn't that deadly. It's a low infection fatality rate. It's kind of like the flu. It only affects elderly people, but it's like the flu, but a little different. So that's what he used to say. And I wonder what stock he just cashed in, James, because now Bill Gates has reversed himself on climate change, saying that people will be able to live and thrive no matter what. In fact, here is the memo he dropped, and it says in a few decades, cataclysmic climate change will decimate civilization. This evidence is all around us. Just look at the heat waves and the storms caused by rising global temperatures. Nothing matters more than limiting the rise in temperature. Fortunately for all of us, this view is wrong. This is what he's saying now, that it's wrong, and that it will not lead to humanity's demise. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future. So I just wanted to get your expert opinion, because you know more about Bill Gates than I think anybody, and you are on to Bill Gates sooner than most people. And so what do you make of this? Did he cash in a stock I didn't get a report on, or what is going on?
Yeah, actually, you're bang on the nose with that. I think there are three things going on. One is that clearly the climate fear-mongering agenda is failing, and the pendulum is swinging on that issue enough that I think he's smart enough to get ahead of this, because I think there are a lot of people who have made this part of their identity that are probably committed to it and can't get away from it. Gates is making the change right now. And one stock that you might want to look at, I mean, he's invested in all sorts of you will eat the bugs and you will like it, fake meat kind of stuff. And one of those stocks is Beyond Meat, which you might have seen recently had its stock absolutely crater, as part of basically the big consumer rejection of those types of I can't believe it's not meat type of things that are going on right now. So I think that's one of the economic factors that he's reading the tea leaves on. Another one is, hey, have you noticed that the big story now isn't like, oh, we're using too much electricity, we have to cut down on coal and gas. No, it's like fire up every plant we can because we need to feed the AI data center monstrosities that we're creating. And so Bill Gates and his big tech brethren are worried about that, and to the extent that they're reopening 3 Mile Island just for Microsoft. I mean, they want all the energy they can get. So I think Gates realized they have to change the narrative on that. And then the third part of this is now he's switching the climate change narrative into, oh, it's not about temperature, it's about, human health and that sort of thing, which, of course, as we've seen from the past few years, talking about health and saving the poor people of the world is really just another layer of control. Now they're starting to put it into this basket called One Health, which is a phrase you're going to hear more and more. The WHO, the UN are pushing it now. It's this idea, it's this holistic health thing. It's not just about you, it's about how the plants feel, and it's about how the cows feel, and it's all this. And so in order to look over all of this, we have to give all of the control to all of natural resources over to international bodies like the WHO and the UN. So that's the way they're going to try to reframe this whole argument.
So the AI centers take up they have immense needs for power, and they have immense needs for water also, by the way. And so we've covered that on the show. It's a big problem where these big data centers show up, and then they're sucking all the water from the local community for these data centers. And what do they need? Is it for cooling? Is that what the whole deal is
For
about?
cooling, yeah. Just because of the amount of processing they're doing,
It's amazing. And so you're saying that, so he's made the shift from screaming about climate change because too many people, I'm guessing, are asking him why he still flies in a private jet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, the hypocrisy and the propaganda is just unsustainable. And I think there are I think he finds there are better ways to reframe this. And on the data center water cooling issue, I will note that about over a decade ago, back when the NSA was creating one of their gigantic data centers in Utah, there was a movement at the time to get the local municipality there to actually cut off the water to the data center, which would have been a great initiative. Unfortunately, not a lot of people knew about it or cared about its existence, but that is one way that people can at least think to fight back against what's going on right now.
So the whole deal is because Bill Gates needs these data centers and he needs power for them, and he knows that we're going to have to frack, we're going to have to use oil, we're going to have to use gas, we're going to even have to use nuclear.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Which
So you're going to see a lot of about faces from a lot of people who said they were on the green team, who suddenly love power.
I knew it was about Bill Gates making money somehow.
Yeah,
I knew
of
it
course.
was. And at first, he was all on scaring people about climate change because he wanted you to get to eat fake meat, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, that was definitely part of it. I mean, there's so many things that he's invested in that you could almost pluck anything, but
right.
I mean, that's just one that's been in the news lately because I don't know if you saw, but Beyond Meat's stock
I,
absolutely
I did
cratered.
I did not see
And
that. Well, I used to eat it at first when it came out because I like the idea of not killing animals. That's a big, I hate factory farming, and it's an abomination. And so if anything I can do, I'll do it. But then you find out that's Bill Gates behind all this, and he's buying up all the farmland to try to, and then also it's garbage. It's bad for you. It's full of, it's like eating a stick of margarine, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, that what's worrying is just the overall trend towards the idea that we're going to be eating more, not just more processed food, but laboratory created synthetic foods. And when you start getting into the impossible meat and all of that kind of stuff, you're starting to talk about literally taking food itself, which is the most abundant thing on the planet. It literally grows in the ground. It's everywhere and always. We've had it throughout history, and they're trying to make it so no, you don't want that icky stuff that grows in the ground. You want this wonderful stuff that's produced in our laboratories that you're going to have to pay for our factory foods, and that's the trend that they're trying to instill. But thankfully, people are pushing back on it.
And thankfully enough, people are finally waking up to that Bill Gates is not a philanthropist, that he's a capo philanthropist. He's a megalomaniac, and he's most likely, good chance. A lot of people say that he is a sociopath, psychopath, and well, he certainly, he shouldn't he be introduced every time he's on the news. He should be introduced as college dropout and not a doctor or scientist, Bill Gates. But
Yeah.
that's not how they introduce him. That's how they introduce RFK. They say, "Oh, he's not a scientist or a doctor, RFK," even though he's a lawyer who sued those scientists and won, and he sued the big pharma and won. They never say that about Bill Gates. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's remember that the two biggest people screaming about climate change, neither of them. Well, one of them, Greta Thunberg, never finished high school, and Bill Gates never finished college. So let's
Got to
keep.
say something.
What do you say about climate change?
Well, yeah, good question. So I've been on this since almost day one of the Corbett Report. This was when I was waking up, when I was going down the rabbit hole and finding out all this information. I was finding out about 9/11 and all the central banking and all this stuff, and all of this kind of fit together. And I started to find all this information that I'd never found before. But the one thing that was still the sticking point is, well, all these scientists can't be lying about this, right? And so that was really the last domino to fall before I started the Corbett Report was, oh, actually, I think if I mean, yes, there's a lot of scientists who really believe that what they're doing on the up and on the level, but are huge incentives for there's been this creation of this incredible infrastructure for the creation of essentially fake news on the scientific scale with regards to this issue. All the grant funding, I mean, if you don't mention global warming in your biology proposal or whatever, you're not going to get the grant. So the incentive has always been that way. And it was one of those things where I was trying to think, well, what is this about? Why is this happening? But once I started to understand at the sort of the international level, the UN, sustainable development agenda, etc., is not about saving the earth. It is about monopolizing the earth's resources under the guise of, don't worry, we're going to take care of it, guys. And then they come in and take over an area and then start, of course, selling it out to their corporate buddies. And we've seen this taking place over and over and over enough that I started to really look into it. So I've done reports on the IPCC. Once every several years, they release their new report, and oh my God, hell in a handbasket, 2 degrees of warming. It's absolutely happening, guys. The thing that they don't tell you about the IPCC, it's thousands of climate scientists, guys. Well, not really climate scientists. This is a bunch of, in fact, their report uses a lot of footnotes to things like World Wildlife Federation, like propaganda literature, etc., rather than scientific reports, etc., etc. But the thing they never tell you is that the summary for policymakers, which is this document that gets put out before the IPCC report and is the one that's screaming about, oh my God, we have to change now or everyone's going to die, is a political document. It is literally negotiated by diplomats. And then the scientific report, which is released later, has to be tailored to match the summary for policymakers. So this is, I mean, it's a scam that's happening on so many levels that most people can't even believe that a scam like this would take place, which is, I understand the sort of mental sticking point people have over this.
Yeah, I had it. I was 100% on board with all the climate change propaganda until COVID. And then once I realized, after I got vaccine injured, I realized, oh my God, they've been lying about everything from ivermectin to hydroxychloroquine to the virus where it was originated, who funded it, to the fatality rate of it, to herd immunity, natural immunity. There's still people out there screaming about we should wear masks because it's science. There's no science that says you should wear masks. And they lied about everything. The vaccine stopping transmission, contraction, the mRNA platform. There wasn't a thing, the lockdowns, and anything. So and once I realized that they would lie on that scale, I started to be open to other scales. And then I realized, oh, well, I already knew Russiagate was a lie. That was a hoax. I already knew the Syrian gas attacks was a hoax. I knew the Ukraine war was a hoax. The Libya war was a hoax. The Afghanistan war, both Iraq wars, they're both hoaxes. So then I'm like, oh, of course, they'll lie about anything and everything. And of course, 9/11, Building 7 was certainly a lie. And so that's what made me like, well, maybe, let me look at climate change again. And then as soon as you look into it, you realize they're lying.
Yeah.
They always like to say it's the hottest year on record, but they didn't start records until 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, and exactly right. And the way that they manipulate the temperature record, again, that's something I've talked about. So the past is always getting cooler as they're warming the temperatures in the present so that it looks more, more of an impressive hockey stick, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many ways in which they're lying. But if you want to know sort of the underlying basis for this, I do have an essay in the book called Who Controls the Environmental Movement, which points out the interesting fact that a lot of the early founders of the modern environmental movement and the conservancy groups, et cetera, in the US and internationally, all happen to be racist eugenicists who wanted to control the Earth's population in every sense of that word. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is Madison Grant. What do you think of when you hear the name Madison Grant? The passing of the great race, this person who was writing about the evils of, immigration to the US and all these horrible brown people who are going to flood the earth, etc., who is also one of the founders and fathers of the National Park Service in the U.S. In fact, go to National Park Service website and they have a page up on him. It's like, oh, it's a troubling legacy, but we can't not mention him because he was so important, etc., etc. And this is everywhere and all over the place. The founders of the World Wildlife Federation, all avowed, many of them card-carrying British Eugenics Society members, etc. People who hate certain classes of people that they think are beneath them. Why are they so interested in preserving the environment, etc.? They managed to switch the genuine and real environmental movement that exists of people who are concerned about all of the crap that corporations and others are doing to the environment, real pollution, real toxins, real problems, and turned it all into carbon dioxide. And what is the ultimate logic of that at the end of the day? Too many people, too much carbon dioxide. We're going to have to get rid of a few people. That was exactly Bill Gates's argument back, 15, 20 years ago, that famous TED Talk where he's talking about, we've got this many people and this much energy. One of these is going to have to go to zero. These people are obsessed with limiting population, specifically the lower classes in the gene pool, the people they don't like so much. And they use this as their cover. And until we wake up to that level of this scam, I don't think we'll really understand what it's about.
Whoa, that is a heavy level of scam for people to wake up to, James. That is heavy. Yeah, even I. Oof.
It's not pleasant to think about. And that's why so many people avoid this, specifically avoid looking into the history. But the history is documentable. And as I say in the book, I have an essay about this with links and footnotes, so you can go check it for yourself. Do not trust me. Go look it up. Go look up Madison Grant's page on the National Park Service website.
Come see us in Australia. Second show's added in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. We'll see you in Burbank, California, the day after Thanksgiving. It's a Friday. And then Pottstown, Pennsylvania, December 6th. Plus, January 11th, we're going to be in Waikiki at the Blue Note. Tickets not available yet for them, but go to jimmydore.com for a link for all the other tickets.